Hey, my name's Will, and this is my friend Mauricio. I'm going to teach him how to make a roguelike shooter from scratch in Unity, and we already started a little bit. We downloaded Unity, we got our character in the world, and I think that's it, right?
Yeah.
Now let's get him shooting. He's not actually going to shoot stuff yet, but his weapon will fire and he'll make a little animation. Actually, we're just going to jump right into the Unity asset store. So if you want to search that in there, we're going to get a muzzle flash for free, which is a really good price. And I went searching for a few of them, so I found one I really liked. If you search for War FX, so like War space and then F and then the letter X. Yeah, there you go. And just hit enter and it'll pop up below. You might need to hit the free. Oh, there it is. It's the first one with the green letters. Yeah, that's the one. We're going to snag that guy. And then the blue add to my assets. And then you'll see like a what? Man, what's it even logging in? Oh, everything's all like high security. Like retina scans and then you want to click the add to Unity button once it pops up.
Right.
There it is, or open in Unity. That's the one we want. Yeah. Yeah, so we'll click on that. You can just click on the words zombie survival. Yeah. All right, cool. We want to click on, yeah, there it is. And then the download button on the bottom right. And then once that's done, you click the import button and it is in your project tab on the bottom left once it's done.
Do I import that too?
Yeah. It is done. So now we can click the X there. Close out of the package manager. We don't need that anymore.
Is it the JMOA sets? Or
Yeah, we're gonna leave it there for right now. Let's see. I want to see what Jeff has real quick. If you click on Jeff, so you got okay, cool. So we gave him a character controller. Can you hit the play button so I can just see where we're at? If you hold Control and press P, it would be the same thing.
Control and
P
Control
for
P?
play. Yeah. Okay, cool. So he's on the ground. He's in idle. Awesome. Let's rotate him first. So we're gonna make him rotate. So we'll get out of play mode. You can tell you're in play mode because the editor gets a little darker.
Okay. So do I put Control P again?
Yeah, to get out of it. That's right. Cool. And let's open up his script, and I can. Yeah. So if you click on not that one, but just below it where it says player script. Yeah, double click on that. Got to sign in, I give it or something. I don't know. It's weird. You can just the bottom right or. I mean, I like dark personally, but
Oh yeah, I didn't see it. I didn't see it. My bad.
I'm a
if
big
we
dark fan. But
No, yeah, even my phone has a dark settings.
yeah, me too.
Yeah. Like every app I have, if it's possible to change it to dark, I'll change it.
Yeah, same here. I don't know what it is. Just the white is like.
Yeah, it just.
Let's make him move. So we're gonna open up your Edge, whatever it is you're using for your browser. So we're gonna search for character controller, and then the word move. Yeah, you got it. Cool. So now what I'm looking for is the docs. Yeah, the one you clicked there. That one's perfect. Oh yeah, that one. So the Unity's got really good documentation, and we're going to be using that. So inside of here, we're gonna basically copy that code for right now and kind of start with that. So this is we're not actually gonna grab that per se. I mean, you can, yeah, I guess whatever. Just grab the whole thing. We'll delete it afterwards. I think it'd be easier. So put it underneath the update. So in between lines 17 and 18. If you click on line 17, there you go. Yeah, and hit enter or return. Yeah, now paste it in, and we're gonna delete some of the stuff out of it that we don't need. Do your control V or paste. Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Cool. So the first things we're gonna get rid of are, you notice how like there's some weird, well, let's do this first. Let's get rid of lines 18, 19, and 20, where it says using. Those usings, if you scroll all the way up, we already have those. So scroll all the way up for a second. I'll show you what I mean. There you go. Yeah. So you notice you've got using systems collections, using systems collections generic. Those are libraries, and it's basically like a bunch of code that when you say using, it's attaching it to this one. Now, we don't need any of that stuff. We don't need it listed twice, rather, so we should delete lines 18, 19, and 20. Cool. And now we also want to delete line 20, because on 20, well, what is now 20, notice it says public class example. Well, ours on line 5, our class is player script. It's not example, so we want to kill that too. Cool. Now we've got this weird funky brace thing going on, so on line 21, we want to kill that also. Cool. And notice how this has a start on line 29. Actually, could you increase your font? So notice how on line 29 we have a start, and on line 34 we have an update. Those are cool. We want to keep those, but we want to remove the start and the update that you had previously on lines 10-ish, I think. Yeah, so line 8. So get rid of that start on line 8 and its braces too. And then actually just delete all of it. So lines 7 through 21 need to go. Let's just see what it does. Let's, if you wouldn't mind, save it. So file save or control S. Yeah, that's fine. Cool. And then let's go back to Unity, and then it's going to import all of that goodness over. Okay, cool. That worked. So let's hit play now. Okay, cool. So click on anywhere of Jeff. Yeah, just anywhere in that screen. That's called our game tab. Now hit the space bar, and I'm wondering if Jeff jumps. He may or may not. You get anything?
Jump.
No? Okay, it's cool. And then hit the arrow keys. I want to see if he moves around.
He's not moving.
No goodness?
Nah, he's a brat.
Oh, we got something going on there. Now I'm noticing an error in the bottom left. Let's check it out. Let's get out of play mode. And you always want to get out of play mode when you're, you don't need it. So we're actually still in play mode. It's kind of hard to tell the difference, but we just paused it. So if you hit the triangle again to get out of play mode altogether, there you go. You can kind of tell everything kind of lightens up a little bit.
Okay, it says no reference exception. Do I press it?
Yeah, and notice it brought us to the console page, which is cool. So click on one of them. It doesn't matter. Cool. So what's it saying?
No reference exception. Object reference not set to an instance of an object player script. The update, and then the two little.
Yeah, that's cool. Now notice it says player script line 21, right? So that CS21, that's our magic right there. So we go over to line 21, and it's saying grounded player equals controller.
Should I delete it?
No deleting, no.
Okay.
So, but what I'm doing though is I'm looking at this, and it's telling me, it's like, hey, you're referencing something that doesn't exist. So that leads me to line 16, which then leads me to line 7. So let's start from the top. So we'll just start on lines 1. Yeah, we'll just start from the top. Lines 1 through 3, those are those libraries I was talking about. Line 5 is our class object, so our player script. And we can have all sorts of player scripts. We can have, Jeff, or we can have Chad, whatever we want to call them. Next one is character controller. So last time you and I added a character controller to Jeff, and we moved it up and down, and we changed the diameter, we got it just right, and then we called it good. And that's the character controller. Mm-hmm. So right now what we're doing here on line 7 is we're saying private character controller, that's the class, controller. So we're declaring a class object and we're calling it controller. That last controller, we can name it whatever we wanted. We can name it Jeff's controller, whatever. It's the variable that we have. But notice that if you double click it, I wonder what happens. If you double click on the word controller, what do you get? Not that controller, I'm sorry, I should have clarified. The one that just says controller, just to the right of it. Yeah, there you go. Double click on, there you go. So when you double click, it highlights all of the instances of that, which is really handy. So that lets you know the next one's on line 16. And that's saying, okay, you declared a character controller type. Let's get it. So what it's doing is it says character controller equals game object. That's Jeff. It's like, okay, let's look at Jeff. And we want to add a component. What component do we want to add? Another character controller. Wait a minute. And then Unity's like, we can't do that. You can't add another one. So we're going to change that word add and just change it to the word get. Cool. So now instead of trying to add a new character controller, it grabs the one that Jeff already has on him. And I'll show you what I mean. Hit save and let's hop over to Unity and we'll look at it. Little control S. There you go. All right, before we hit play. So we're looking at Jeff, right? And on the left, or the right column, you've got the inspector. And in it, inside of Jeff, we've got these different components. And so there's Jeff. That's our Jeff. This is the first component is the transform. That tells where he is in the world space. The animator is what makes him do that, that idle animation. But this character controller, that's that green box thing going on there. That little pill around him. That's how he collides into stuff. So we changed the radius and we changed the height and all that last time. So this is it, the character controller. So in the script, what we're doing, when we copied it from the documentation, it's like, hey, add a new one. And then Unity's like, hey, you can't have two. And then it prevents that from happening and tells us, hey, you got a null reference. You're telling me to check if it's grounded, and I'm not going to do that. So anyways, we changed it from add to get. Let's hit play now and see what happens. We don't get the error, so that's cool. Yay. Okay, cool. He's moving around. Look at that. He looks so intense. Calm down, Jeff. It's fine.
He moves funny.
He does move funny. We need to speed him up too. He's slow. All right, let's go to your script. Where do I go? Your VS Code. Back to the script for... Yeah, there you go. That's it. So now anytime we reference the word controller, it's referring to that character controller that we set around him, that little green capsule. Cool. So line 21 now. We got a new variable. Have you ever heard of a Boolean? Do you know what a bool is?
No.
Okay, cool. So a Boolean is the simplest variable that you can have. And it's just yes or no. It's true or false. That's it. So we've got it on line 9. And there it is, grounded player. And that tells us, is the player grounded? Yes or no. And it's on line 21 where it's getting used. It's getting its value set on line 21. So it's declared on line 9. It says hey, I'm making a Boolean. And I'm making a Boolean. I'm calling it grounded player. Line 21 says it goes into controller, which is that character controller we got on line 7. And it checks if it is grounded. And that's actually a thing. So I'll show you what I mean. Go to your edge again. And then if you click on, I'm just going to take charge here just for a second because it's hard to explain. If you click on this right there, it brings you to the everything in the documentation about the character controller. So what is it? Allows you to easily move constraints by collisions and blah, blah, blah. So it lets us move Jeff around. Its properties it has. The center, collision flags, whatever. We'll never use any of this stuff. But this right here, look at that, is grounded. Was the character touching the ground during the last move? So that is the very thing that we were referencing in our script. That's this one here. So that's a built-in variable that lets us know that Unity built this one for us, and we can call it. And it lets us know if the character is touching the ground. So we take this and we put it into this variable. We really don't need to. We could just call this every time and it would do the exact same thing, just this portion right here. Character controller.isGrounded. We can just call that every time we see grounded player, but it just looks a little better just for legibility. So in our game, we don't need to jump. We don't need anything to do with jumping. We don't need to know if he's touching the ground. We don't care. Right? So let's clean some stuff out. I don't care if he's touching the ground. He's never going to not touch the ground. So we can kill that. We're going to kill everything about his grounded player. He's going to kill. This is the player velocity.y. Y is up and down. Again, jumping. Good talk. We don't need it. Move. So this is interesting. Vector 3, which is it's a point in 3D space. There's an up, forward and back, and left and right. So it's got 3 different components that it needs. And it's called move, so we just named it move or movement, but this is move. So we're declaring a new vector 3, and it's taking the input, the horizontal. This is the y, so 0. We're not going up and down. And then this is the vertical, so our z-axis back and forth. So this part is the x, this is the y, this is z. Anyways, it doesn't matter. This moves them around. This is our controller here, same character controller we're referencing. And this is a function that is inside of the character controller right here, move. Supplies the movement of the game object. So you get the idea. It all kind of references back, and you can go to the documentation to see that this function exists in there. So we've got move, time.delta time slows things down a bit. Player speed, we need to increase that. That was a problem. He was super slow. So let's make that 4 or something like that. And then here, get button jump. Sorry, buddy. You have no hops. You don't get to jump. So there we go. Bam. This is our code here. Lines 7 through 30. That's everything. And all of this has to do with movement. So a big portion of coding is using functions, and functions are super important. That's what this is here. And this one here, they're functions. You can tell they're functions because they have this these double parentheses, and they've got a return value, which for us it's nothing. So, but one thing I like to do is keep things pretty organized. So we could do this, and then we can grab all of this stuff, pull it out. So if we call movement, that is the exact same thing that we just had before. So really the only reason for this is as we start to build up our update, updates, it's as we build this up, we're going to have movement, we're going to have shoot, we're going to have a lot of functions in here. So the more that we can clean this up, the more that we can, we don't need to worry about it. We don't need to worry about what's inside of here because we know what it's about, because the function it's called movement. Update's kind of weird. This one is this function is called for every frame, so it's almost about 60 times per second. And it's constantly looking and saying, it just runs this, so super fast. 60 times per second is, that's usually, you hear, 60 frames per second. That's what we're doing here. Every frame, this update function is getting ran. And then it just calls this movement function, which then just brings us here. It's kind of like a go-to. It's like, shoot down to here. And then it starts doing our movement for the horizontal and the vertical. Moves the character around. Cut this one out. We'll do something like this. And then this would actually go nowhere. We still would need to call it. So we can do that right here. So what this does, player velocity dot y equals gravity value, which we have up here is negative 9.81. And then delta time, that slows it down. So where it's not running at 60 frames per second, this runs at 1 frame per second. Real-time value, so we can actually see him pulling down. And and then it moves it down in that direction. And so this just pulls him down to the ground. But for our movement, this is all we need right here. And that's your script. Let's get him to follow the mouse. I think would be really a good idea. I think we can do that next. So I would say, just like we had our functions before, we'd create a new one called follow mouse. And we're going to, it's public. Well, we don't need to make it public, but whatever. So now that just means that when the update's called, it's going to, every 60 frames per second, it's going to call our movement. And it's going to call our gravity, pull them to the ground. And then it's going to call this one. And we're going to have some meat inside of here. It's 5 lines of code. But it is it's kind of ugly.
I don't really like this part.
Yeah, I know you were telling me that before. All right, well, I'll tell you what I'm doing here. So this is the vector 3 is a point. You've got 3 different parts. You got your x, your y, and your z. And this is taking it. We're declaring it as mouse, and mouse input dot mouse position. So input is the same thing that we have here. We have an input get access that's getting the left and the right, and this one's getting the up and the down on your arrow keys that you were pressing. This one here, we need another one. So my position, camera main world to screen point. This is kind of weird. So the screen moves about and the mouse moves on the screen, right? So if you move the mouse up to, if you're here on the screen, you're in the top left, right? And if you're over here on the screen, you're in the bottom right. But that's different than the world space that Jeff lives in.
Yeah.
And so this just translates the two together, and it says he's going to take the position. This means, so we've got this script is attached to Jeff. It's one of those components that we have here, right here. So when we say this, we're declaring this whole thing, which is Jeff, which is this same thing. One, here's Jeff in our hierarchy. Here's Jeff in world, in the world in 3D, and then here's all the different components that Jeff has. So we're working on this right here when we write the script. So that brings us here, camera main. So that references the main camera, which is this one here, and we got it right there. If we actually double click on it, we can see it's like right behind Jeff, and its screen space looks like that. You see that whole like rectangle?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one where when our mouse is moving around, it'll be either way up here or way down here. So we need to translate that, whatever this huge space is, which actually looks like this. There it is. It's big, right?
Yeah.
So there needs a translation between this huge square and this one. So we'll go back from 2D mode to 3D mode, and then we'll look at Jeff, and there he is. He's still happy. He's cool. So we're going to go back to our code, and I'll explain a little bit about what I'm doing. So we've got the mouse. Where is the mouse pointing? Cool. Where is my position? And it's taking this position, it's taking it and making it into something that is it's similar to what the mouse's world space looks like. So it brings them both to the screen. And then mouse minus equals, or you can say mouse equals mouse minus my position. And it's subtracting the two, so it's getting the distances between the two. You can subtract two vectors from each other. Let's get the angle between them, and this is where we get our trigonometry. Have you done trig yet? Yeah. When do you do trig?
I haven't done anything past geometry.
Oh man.
I'm being honest.
Yeah, no, you're good. I geometry was tough for me, and trig was tough for me too. You know, you only.
Nah, it's not really tough.
No.
If I'm being honest, it's not really tough.
It's not.
No.
Yeah, I had a tough time with. I had a tough time with geometry.
Algebra and geometry are basically the exact same thing, in my opinion. Geometry is just a way easier version of algebra. In my opinion, at least.
Cool. All right, so this gets the arc tangent in a so arctan 2 or atan 2 is the tangent between, we've got here, this is the y component and this is the x component. So then it's getting the tangent so of the angle. So that's that's your trigonometry or your yeah. It's getting the angle and it's multiplying it from radians to degrees. Anyways, you need this magic. It's a lot of math, and when you get into trig, you'll remember this and be like, wait a minute. You know, I'm telling you. So then this is all we really need right now. Or at least, this is all we need to focus on. This I translate. I don't know what I'm doing. What am I talking about? So this is the same thing as this here, the transform, right? That is this right here, this component, transform. That's what we're referencing when we say this dot transform. And then we're rotating it. So if we go into here and we change the rotation, we clicked on this one, and notice he's spinning around,
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing, is we're rotating him to follow the mouse. So if we hit the save button, by my calculations, this should work.
Are your calculations right, though?
I don't know. We'll find out. Control P and tell me if my calculations are right.
All right.
It's going to be a little weird, so we need to change the camera around. But move your mouse and see if Jeff follows it. I can't see your mouse, so I'm going to have to take your word for it. Actually, why can't I see your mouse? That's kind of weird. So what do you think?
Yes, sir. He's moving. All right.
Kind of weird, though, yeah? The reason why is because we want a rogue type. We want the top-down perspective. We don't want whatever this is. This is a weird perspective. So let's change our camera to be right above his head. So
right.
We'll get out of play mode by hitting the Control P or triangle, cool. And then we're gonna change the camera. So and you're gonna do it. I'm gonna make you do it. Mm-hmm. So on the left-hand side, if you click on main camera, up in the top in the hierarchy. So right now in your game, all you have is the camera, Jeff, a light, and the ground, the plane. Well, the first thing we want to do is we want to change the rotation of the camera. So one of the ways that we can do it is if you click on camera over in the hierarchy, yeah, there you go, and then change the X in the rotation. So that'll be in this transform. So that's in up a little bit above. There you go. One below, that's the position. Yeah, there you go. So make that 90 degrees. And that's going to rotate downwards. Cool. So now if I'm looking at that little tiny window, it says main camera. That lets me know what the player's going to see. And you can also see another perspective of it right here. This tab is the game tab. That's what the player sees. If I'm going to click and hold it and drag it and bring it right here. Because now if we need to go into the project directory, or if we need to see error messages, or here, then we can get an idea of this is what the player's going to see when they're looking at the game. If we just change these positions to 0, and then we change this one to 0, that'll be right above our dude.
Ah.
Because remember,
Interesting.
Jeff is right at 0, 0, 2. So it's at a height of 3, which is like right above Jeff's head. So that's a problem because if you hit play, you'll notice Jeff just goes away real easily. He just walks off the screen because the camera's not going to follow him. It's just staying right there. We didn't code it to, so he doesn't know. So we'll want to go up. So if you change the Y, notice the Y is at 3.31 right now. I don't know. Try 10. See what you think. It's kind of small.
Too small.
Too
Oh,
small.
wait. Let's see. 7.
I like 7. 7's a good choice. And now...
No. I'm going to say 5. I'm going to say 5. Yeah,
you feeling 5? Okay.
Yeah, 5.
Hit the play button now and see if it kind of like... It feels a little bit more of what you're expecting when you're playing it.
Wait, can I move it, like, the camera, or what?
Yeah, so... well, when you move Jeff around with the arrows, he's going to walk away. Right? So the camera doesn't follow him.
Why is this fun?
I don't know. It's really weird to like code up stuff and then you like, it's super satisfying. And this is the way I learned how to code. I just watched tutorials and tinkered through this stuff and it was fun.